Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, 23rd chapter, text 3rd. But before, we'll just read Maharaj to recap their short verses, because Krishna starts answering Uddhava, and we'll read what was the question. So text 58 and 9. Krishna says, even though neglected, insulted, ridiculed, or envied by bad men, or even though repeatedly agitated by being beaten, tied up, or deprived of one's occupation, spat upon or polluted with urine by ignorant people, one who desires the highest goal in life should, in spite of all these difficulties, use his intelligence to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. And then Sri Uddhava says, O best of all speakers, please explain to me how I may properly understand this. 61. O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong, and therefore it is very difficult, even for learned men, to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotees, who are fixed in your loving service and who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet, are able to tolerate such offenses. This was the last verse which we read. And then in chapter 23, Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Lord Mukunda, the chief of the Dash Arhats, having thus been respectfully requested by the best of his devotees. Yeah, that's it. It was the chapter summary. Sri Uddhava first acknowledged the fitness of his servant's statements. Then the Lord, whose glorious exploits are most worthy of being heard, began to reply to him. Second text, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Lord Krishna said, O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saintly person in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men. And in the purport said, in modern age, there is widespread propaganda ridiculing the path of spiritual realization. And thus even saintly devotees are disturbed to see the progress of human society being obstructed. Still, a devotee of the Lord must tolerate any personal insult, though he cannot tolerate offense against the Lord himself or the Lord's pure devotee. And number 3, that's the verse today.
What?
Number 3, that's the
Okay.
verse.
Can I hear you?
Na tatha tapyate vidha. Human bhanais tu marmagai yatha tudanti marmastha hyasatam purusheshvadha. Purusheshvaha. Na, not tatha, in the same way, tapyate is caused pain, vidha, pierced, puman, a person, bhanai, by arrows, to, however, marmagai, going to the heart, yatha, as, tudhanti, prick, marmasta, attached within the heart, attaching within the heart, he indeed, asatam, of evil persons, purusha, harsh words, parusha, ishvara, Ishava, the arrows. Translation, sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. Number 4, my dear Uddhava, in this regard, a most pious story is told, and I shall now describe it to you. Please listen with careful attention. Purport. The Lord will now relate to Uddhava a historical account which teaches how to tolerate the insults of others. Maharaj, would you like to comment?
And it refers to a story, and so we naturally want to hear the story. Difficult to comment on that verse which refers to a story which we don't know yet.
And the previous ones, that one, the arrows and the sharp arrows and the words.
Yeah, that we also observe this phenomenon of not being able to tolerate the insulting words of uncivilized people among the politicians.
Yes.
Sometimes a politician makes some statement and then the whole world is so upset about it that they cannot tolerate it because it's uncivilized, rude, harsh, without any consideration of how others feel. So that's very difficult to tolerate. And of course, for devotees, it might also be difficult, as mentioned here. What was it? Even among
saintly persons, difficult to remain unagitated.
Even among saintly persons, it is difficult to tolerate. And then, but still, it has been mentioned that a devotee, he must learn to tolerate. And how is it possible for a devotee to tolerate? That have been indicated here, because they have taken complete shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So that's the lesson for the devotees, that rather being agitated, disturbed by the insults of others, the devotee should strive to, at that point, simply take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Abhaya, that the devotee of the Lord, he is fearless, he's not afraid of anything because he knows Krishna is protecting him. Similarly, if there's a great cause of disturbance and agitation, he knows that Krishna is the ultimate shelter. Why? Because he's free, eternally free from all these mundane inebrities, mundane qualities such as envy, what else, envy, lust, etc. Krishna is always the shelter for the devotee. Shelter in the sense of Lord Krishna is free from all these material qualities. That's why the devotee takes full shelter in Krishna. Krishna is never envious of anyone. He explains this very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita. He has no friends, he has no enemies, but naturally the devotees are most dear to Lord Krishna. That's natural. Like, what is happening? Like a mother or father, they like all children. Not that, I hate this child and I love my child. They like all the children are nice, but it is natural that a mother or father specifically likes their own child. So, similarly, Krishna, what is happening? Similarly, Lord Krishna, he has he loves all his children, his spiritual parts and parcels. In this sense, no friends, no enemy, but naturally he specifically favors his own devotees.
You had a question? Vishnu Rata Prabhu, what?
It's about
So? Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a question, I think, because we read it also yesterday. There was a question, I think from Chandrakanti. What about if these sharp words, which become lodged within the heart, are spoken not by uncivilized men, but by devotees? Then it's even more difficult to not be agitated. If sharp words are spoken from one devotee to another devotee, then it's even more painful what to do.
The devotee should not behave like a non-devotee. And it is not that a devotee can do whatever he likes and he is a devotee. If he displays non-devotional qualities, material qualities, and at that point he's not a devotee. It's not that because I'm a devotee, I can behave like a non-devotee and still I'm a devotee. No. We judge a devotee according to his qualities, the qualities he displays. As long as the devotee displays quality of a devotee, he's a devotee. But at that point, he displays the qualities of non-devotees. So how can he be a devotee? Of course, Lord Krishna is forgiving. He explains in the Gita, even if a devotee commits abominable activities, still he is a sadhu. Why? Because he's engaged in the process. So that's a lesson for us. Even if a devotee behaves like a non-devotee, even commits abominable activities, as long as he's engaged in devotional service, then that should be respected. Not that the abominable activity should be respected, but that he's still engaged. He doesn't give up the process of devotional service. That should be respected. Even to the point of thinking that he's a sadhu, because he's still engaged in devotional service. So that, brings us to the point of forgiveness. That a devotee should always have that quality of forgiveness. He's forgiving. It's not retaliating. That's again a non-devotional quality, retaliating. I will never forget. Year after year, if possible, life after life, I will not forget what the devotee did to me. That's a material quality. The devotee should be able to forgive. Because again, he has faith in the process of in the purifying process of devotional service. He has full faith. Maybe a devotee behaves like a rascal, like an idiot. But the devotional process works as long as he's engaged in devotional service. He will get purified eventually more and more. He has that faith in the purifying process of devotional service. He has that full faith. This is why he can forgive. If he has no faith in the purifying process, then how can he forgive? He will think the devotee will always behave like that. He will always be a rascal. He will never change. I think this we also heard sometimes, that devotee will never change. It's always the same. Nothing will work. So we cannot curse a devotee like that. He will never change. He will never make advancement. No. The process of devotional service is so powerful. Mrigrari, the hunter, so many examples are there. What would be a hope, for a hunter who's half killing animals to become purified? What's the hope? But still, he became so much purified that he could not even cause a harm to an ant. Unbelievable. That's the power of bhakti, power of devotional service. Yes. Some other comments? Some other thoughts?
Was that your question? Or
who's thinking? Who's thinking?
But if this devotee
I cannot be.
But if this devotee doesn't change, if you see still the same activity, that devotee is happy in this situation, and there are others also who support. Who support that behavior? So what do we do in that situation?
No, that has to be brought then to the attention of more advanced devotees who are in the position of who are in the position and who are able, qualified to rectify that devotee. It has to be rectified. Why? Because otherwise it causes great disturbance in the society of devotees. Any disturbance in the society of devotees must be rectified. We cannot tolerate unnecessary suffering of devotees. So it must be rectified. We always give a chance that devotees become purified, gradually make more and more advancement. But if it's disturbing, if the behavior becomes a disturbance in a society, then this must be rectified. That verse, what is that verse? Disturbance in society.
Yeah. Well, no. When one does practices bhakti, but without following without following the Shruti Smriti Purana.
Shruti Smriti Purana, that verse.
Yeah, that verse.
Shruti Smriti Purana, Pancharati Vidim Vina. Yeah.
Not part.
So any teachings, any behavior which causes disturbance in society, that must be rejected. It must be rejected. So that rejecting related to this point means rectifying. Must be rectified. Either the devotee has to rectify himself. If that is not possible, then he has to practice outside the association. You can always practice at home, no problem. You can come to festivals, programs, very nice, but you cannot live in the close association of devotees. This ashram life, one must be qualified. No. What's the qualification to live in the association of devotees? There must be some basic qualifications. Even in the in our Vedic tradition, the guru had his ashram, and the parents, they sent the boy to the Gurukul, but still the guru, he would judge the qualification of the student. And if he didn't match the qualifications, he would not accept. You cannot, I cannot accept you, sorry. Because he did not display the basic qualifications of humbleness, being willing to render service to the guru and ashram. So basic qualifications must be there. If they're not there, then they cannot live in a close association of devotees. They can practice in a different way. We should never discourage anyone to practice devotion service, but in a different ways. In ashram, outside of ashram.
Много често ми се казва, че човек трябва да се концентрира върху положителното качество на прямо ден. Когато видим някаква грешка, и споделям с някого и ми казват, концентрирайте се върху добрите качества, не гледайте лошите. Как да го съпоставим с тази ситуация?
In that regard, if we see some problem, we want to express that problem at a particular person, and then we share that with another devotee, and we are often advised, no, you have to see only the positive. So what to do in this situation.
Only to see the positive means that a devotee should not try to find faults. That's the instruction. A devotee should not try. There are no faults, but he tries to find a fault. Just patiently waiting till the devotee makes a fault. If he makes a fault, but to always see the positive aspects in the devotee does not mean one is naive and doesn't see, one is blind, doesn't see the negative sides. If they are there, the devotee is not naive, he sees them, but he's not looking for them. That's the whole point. He's not a fault finding, trying to find faults. But if he sees faults which are there existing, of course he sees and he understands it's a fault. But then how to go about it, that's according to time, place, circumstances, and so many considerations, how to deal with these faults. So that is not a proper instruction. When there are obviously faults, to just see the positive. That's not a proper instruction. The proper instruction is how to deal with that fault. Not just don't see them. How can you not see them if they're there? But that's a challenge for the devotee. If he sees some shortcomings in the devotee, some misbehavior, how to go about it. That's a challenge. And it is not advisable to go about it, to not speak about it, not say anything. You just swallow it, and then you constantly contemplate on it, think about it. That's not good, because that will disturb one's practice of devotional service. So it has to come out. I see something disturbs me, then one should consult more advanced devotees. What shall I do? I see these things. Then just clarify it, purify it. It's not good to say anything, because it will not only be one Kali Dosha Nidhi Rajan. Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. We don't even have to look for it. It's an ocean. We are swimming in the midst of faults. And because devotees, they just came out of that ocean. So they're covered. Naturally, when you come out of the ocean, you're covered with water. No, it's not when you come out of the ocean, you're dry, instantly dry. You're wet. So that we have to expect any devotee who comes out of this ocean of faults is covered with faults. But then one has to be tolerant, and how to go about it. That's the whole science. How to go about it. Sometimes we give the example of someone is very dirty and he takes a shower. And then, the dirt is mixed with the soap, just floating down. And then what is the point at that point to open the curtain and criticize him and say how dirty you are? I'm in the shower. Just wait a little longer and then he comes out clean. So one should not overreact. In other words, we should not overreact if we see some dirt in the devotee, some fault, some shortcomings. One should not overreact. He's in a shower now. But then again, the whole point is if it becomes disturbing for the society of devotees, then one has to go about it. If it's not causing great disturbance, then just tolerate. He's in the shower. He is in a shower, she's in a shower, they all take a shower. What's the problem? It's a big shower. ISKCON is a big shower. ISKCON is the biggest shower in the whole world. Anybody who joins ISKCON, comes in contact with ISKCON, he's in a shower, in the purifying process. So we have to tolerate, but if, causing great disturbance, then we have to do something about it. And what to do, that requires intelligence, maturity, advancement in Krishna consciousness. Everyone knows how to do, what to do. Any other?
Right. Loud.
When devotee is rough and harsh, or kind of we are hurt about that, then is at one side Shastra says that if somebody is offending us, we should tolerate, but if they offend somebody else, Guru, Krishna, or other devotees, then all these three different reactions, or we should protect or go out with Patalapan, etc.
Yeah, she says in the case of somebody being offensive, what Shastra advises, we should either cut the tongue or leave.
No,
yeah.
I mean, if somebody is offensive towards us, for example, and we are the object of offense or hurt, or
Somebody offends us, yeah.
yeah.
We tolerate.
So in one side, Shastra says that we should tolerate if it is about us, but of course that is hurtful, and we are not probably that advanced, or we should not swallow up, like you said. And so, how to go about that? How to protect ourselves? Do we reach for protection of somebody who is above us, or who is like our authority, or whatever? Or
You have to repeat the whole thing again.
Yeah, she's saying if somebody is offending us, and then we're supposed to be tolerant, but still it affects us. And what is the best? It affects us. We are hurt. And what is the best way to react? Shall we look for help?
Yeah, we discuss with that devotee?
We discuss with the one who is offending?
Do we seek for protection from somebody who is senior, or our authority, or our family? Or
we look for protection from someone senior to us?
Or if the case is that we are not able to discuss that with that devotee because they become even more hurtful and more aggressive to us, then what is the...
Or if we shouldn't say anything, because if we say anything to that devotee, it becomes even worse. They become more aggressive or something.
You have to use your intelligence. You have to use your intelligence. There's so many, so many options. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do the other thing? Then we have to use our intelligence. If we have no intelligence, then we have to take shelter of someone who has intelligence, who can help. Because there's so many considerations. Depends on the person you're being confronted with. Every individual is different. So there's no so many options. What shall I do? It depends on so many factors. And one has to use, one's intelligence also. Srila Prabhupada often, when disciples try to explain to Srila Prabhupada something complicated, and he often replied, use your intelligence. Krishna has given intelligence. This sometimes we notice in devotees that lack of common sense, also lack of intelligence and lack of common sense. Just maybe humility, humbleness means, I don't know what to do. I'm helpless. That's humbleness. No, it's not humbleness. I don't know what to do. So it's I just talk in general terms. We when we come to Krishna consciousness, like sometimes you hear, gurus, they hear from their disciples saying, "I have no brains, I have no intelligence, Guru Maharaj, I'm stupid," and that's fine, but don't behave like that. To think that I'm stupid, I'm fallen, that's okay, but don't behave like a fallen person. To think that I'm falling, that's good for a devotee, it's humility, but one shouldn't behave, in a fallen way. So to think in front of Guru, I'm stupid, that's good, but don't behave like a stupid person. I think that's an interesting point. Like I always give the example, disciple comes into the room of his Guru Maharaj with a plate of prasadam, and then he tries to be humble by displaying that he's confused. I don't know where to put the plate. Where should I put the plate? Just put it on the table. What's the problem? No, I have to be helpless because it's taking full shelter of Guru means you're helpless. You don't know what to do, and then he will save you. He will tell you what to do, and how then you're enlightened. So there's a big confusion about what does it really mean to be humble, to think that I have no intelligence. Well, what does it mean? So this is why sometimes disciples might feel that their Guru Maharaj is treating the disciple very harsh. I try to be humble, and then he just tells me, use your brain. What's the problem? He's so harsh. I'm helpless, and he's so harsh. But the spiritual master simply points out, use intelligence. You have intelligence. Use it. Don't artificially think you don't have it. Use intelligence, use your sense of discrimination. That's also function of the intelligence, to discriminate what is proper, what is not proper. Who is an advanced devotee, who is not so advanced, who is less advanced. That means discrimination. Or, does it make sense to try to rectify the devotee or even talk to the devotee? If he insults me, does it make sense or not? We have intelligence, we have a sense of discrimination, and we should use it. Then, of course, if we might make a mistake, then we learn from, that's another whole issue. Maybe another time we can talk about it. This, what is it? What did I just say?
Mistake.
How to learn. Mistake, yeah. Mistake. Like, I think I talked about this point. Mistake, yeah. Like in the many parents, they don't raise their children properly related to making mistakes because they punish. That's wrong. If a child makes a mistake, then the child should learn from the mistake. And it cannot learn if you punish. It just becomes more and more afraid of acting, of doing something. And then when, that trauma of I do something, I will be punished. Then when a child grows up, it's a trauma. It develops into a trauma. And the trauma is inhibition. You know that word, inhibition? You know that word? Inhibition? Inhibition.
Възпрепятства, задържа, пречи.
You know, you're afraid to do something. Like someone tells you, give a class in front of 1,000 people. You're inhibited. Your legs are shaking, and because you're afraid that you make something a mistake. You say something wrong, and then the people will punish you. You will be punished. That's the foundation of inhibition. You're scared to be punished. People will laugh at you as a punishment. They will ridicule you. They will point fingers, look at him. Because of that childhood experience, you made a mistake, punish. That doesn't mean that the parents should tell the children, no problem, make mistakes. No, you did a mistake, but don't punish. Just explain why you did a mistake. It's not proper, you should do like this, not just punish. So that's a very important point also, that gurus, they shouldn't just punish the disciple if he makes a mistake. He just has to point out, that was not proper, you should do like that. Then mistakes, they become a stepping stone of advancement, of success. Just a stepping stone, not like a failure. I failed. Because then one develops, low self-esteem, low. Because I made a mistake, another one, and you you're at the end such a low self, such a, how to say, the faith in yourself is so low that you're always afraid to say something and do something. I think that's a very important point, is, mistake, how to deal with mistakes, how to understand mistakes, how to deal with mistakes. And I believe that's also often being done wrongly, in our society of devotees. At least I remember when I was a young devotee, I was constantly punished. I didn't do something properly, I was punished with harsh words and so many other things. Yeah. But then, when you begin to understand, it's okay, you did a mistake. What's the big deal? You just do it properly. You learn from it. Oh, I did something wrong, now I do it right. What's the problem? So when you get into that understanding, you gain self-esteem. You gain more and more faith in yourself. Because I'm learning. Not I failed. Rather, I'm learning. And that's always nice. It's inspiring to learn. As more mistakes I do, as more I become inspired. Because I learn. I learned another thing. Very inspiring. So devotees should feel inspired if they make mistakes, not punished. I failed. Anyway, just another thought.
Yeah, it's very interesting topic.
Yeah, it is.
Maharaj, what about in the case, depending of course on the types of mistakes, how we learn, but let's say the case of
and I noticed that, when children, when they're being raised usually in an aristocratic family, in a cultured family, they're much more, they have a high self-esteem,
confident.
They have a lot of confidence in themselves. They're extrovert, very extrovert, because the parents dealt with their mistakes in a different way, in a more cultured way. But those who were constantly punished, they become inhibited, very inhibited, afraid to do anything, and very low self-esteem. Very important point. Yes.
If a devotee struggles with bad habits, which is like repeatedly fails, for example, just an example.
Overeating, yeah, overeating.
Overeating or even like smoking or something, you know, yeah. Well, I just remember sometimes I've seen such, you know, sincerely trying to follow the process, cannot give it up. And then they think I'm just a failure, I cannot.
Yeah.
How can you apply this learning from, you know, I just cannot get rid of this habit? Or as you said, overeating is a more mellow example.
That's a deeper problem.
Mhm.
Because then we talk about addiction.
Yeah, addiction, that was the word I was looking.
Addiction.
Mm.
Addiction is like a second nature.
Mhm.
It's so strong. It's one's second nature.
Yeah.
Addictions. So that's difficult. Difficult to give up if one is addicted.
Mm.
But Krishna, this is one verse spoken by Krishna, that a devotee still, even if he fails, even if he fails, like my voice, even if he fails, he should not feel discouraged. This is one verse.
Yeah, those 2 chapters.
He should never feel discouraged. He should just go on with the process. Because as long as I think I will, by my strength, I will, you know, conquer this addiction, it will be very difficult.
Mhm.
Because we don't have that power. Someone else has to help. Either by the association of a very advanced devotee, by his association, gradually we are able to overcome that addiction, or faith in Krishna. Krishna can do whatever he wants. He has the power. But as long as we think, you know, by my power, I have to do it, it will be difficult. But we don't have that power. We're already addicted. What power do we have? But, you know, by learning from others, by their input, by their association, what they have to say about it, and full faith in Krishna, Krishna kindly help. Chanting, intensively chanting, not just a couple of rounds, and then, you know, I will overcome my bad habits. It will not work. Full shelter, more chanting, more chanting, more chanting. More chanting, more hearing, more association, more praying to Krishna for help, then there's a chance. But if we do everything little and little, and I will, you know, I will overcome my habits, that will be difficult. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Voice.